There are chickens alive right now that weigh more than a Thanksgiving turkey, lay an egg nearly every single day, and cost almost nothing to feed. 7 of them, and most of them are almost gone. Not because they stopped performing. These birds outproduce, outweigh, and outlast every commercial hybrid on the market today. Some tip the scales at 17 pounds. Some lay over 300 eggs a year without hormones, without supplements, without artificial lighting. So why has almost no one heard of them? Because a chicken that feeds itself, reproduces on its own, and never needs a vet is a chicken the industry can't make money from, and what they can't profit from, they bury. Today, we're pulling every one of them back into the light. By the end of this video, you'll know all 7 breeds, exactly what they weigh, how many eggs they lay, and why the poultry industry spent decades trying to make sure you never found them. Let's get into it. Here's the reality nobody in the poultry business wants to talk about. The average backyard chicken keeper spends between $400 and $600 a year on feed alone for a flock of just 12 birds. That's before medications, supplements, coop repairs, and replacements when your commercial hybrids burn out after 2 years. And they will burn out. The Cornish cross, the bird that fills every grocery store shelf in America, reaches market weight in 6 weeks. 6 weeks! Then it's done. If you don't process it, its own body kills it. Heart failure, leg collapse, organs that can't keep up with the growth rate they were engineered to hit. The commercial laying hybrids aren't much better. Your ISA Browns, your Golden Comets, your Red Stars, they'll give you 300 eggs in year 1. By year 2, production drops 20%. By year 3, you're feeding a pet. Meanwhile, the feed companies keep raising prices. In the last 5 years alone, poultry feed costs have jumped over 40% across the United States. A 50-pound bag that cost $13 in 2019 now runs you $19 or more, depending on where you live. So you're paying more every year for birds that give you less every year. That's not farming. That's a subscription service designed to keep you dependent. And the worst part, the solution has existed for over a century. Birds that weigh double what your hybrids weigh. Birds that lay just as many eggs but keep doing it for 5, 6, 7 years. Birds that forage 60 to 70% of their own diet off your land. They exist. They've always existed. The industry just made sure you never went looking for them. Until now. Every single breed you're about to see today has something in common. They were all thriving long before the modern poultry industry existed. We're talking about birds that fed families through the Civil War, through the Great Depression, through 2 world wars. Entire homesteads ran on these chickens. No feed store, no hatchery catalog, no veterinarian on speed dial. For thousands of years, farmers selected chickens the way nature intended. They kept the biggest, they kept the strongest, they kept the ones that laid through winter, foraged their own meals, and hatched their own replacements without a $200 incubator. That process created monsters, chickens that hit 15, 16, even 17 pounds. Hens that produced eggs deep into their 6th and 7th year. Roosters so hardy they survived blizzards without heated coops. Then came the 1950s. Industrial agriculture realized there was no money in a bird that took care of itself, so they engineered a new model: fast growth, maximum dependency, short lifespan. A chicken that needed their feed, their medications, their lighting schedules, and their replacement chicks every single year. Within 2 decades, nearly every heritage giant disappeared from commercial production, not because they failed, because they succeeded too well at the wrong thing. They made farmers independent, and independence is the one thing a $360 billion industry cannot afford. The Livestock Conservancy now lists dozens of heritage breeds as threatened, critical, or watching. Some of the birds on today's list came within a few hundred breeding pairs of total extinction, but they survived, kept alive by small farmers, backyard breeders, and people who refused to let the industry decide what belongs in their coop. These are the 7 they tried hardest to erase. If you raise chickens or you're planning to start, subscribe and hit that bell right now. What's coming next are 7 breeds that will completely change what you think a backyard chicken can do. Number 1. The Brahma. They called this bird the king of all poultry, and for 80 straight years it earned that title every single day. Brahma roosters weigh between 10 and 12 pounds, but historical breeding records show individual birds pushing past 17 pounds. They stand nearly 30 inches tall, with feathered legs thick enough to handle the coldest winters on the continent. From the 1850s all the way through the 1930s, the Brahma was the #1 meat bird in America, not the Cornish cross, not some lab-engineered hybrid, a heritage breed that grew on pasture and table scraps. But here's the part that really matters for your backyard. Brahmas are winter layers. When your other hens shut down in November, Brahmas are just getting started. They lay from October through May, producing 150 to 200 large brown eggs per year during the months when eggs are hardest to get and worth the most at market. So why did they almost vanish? Because they take about 9 months to reach full size. In an industry that measures profit by the week, 9 months is unacceptable. So they replaced the king with a 6-week disposable bird and hoped you never noticed. The Livestock Conservancy listed Brahmas as endangered for decades. They only came off the watch list in 2023. Not because the industry brought them back, because backyard farmers like you did. But wait until you see what number 2 brings to the table. Number 2. The Jersey Giant. This is the largest purebred chicken breed in the United States. Period. Jersey Giant roosters hit 13 to 15 pounds. Hens reach 10 to 11. Created in the 1870s by brothers John and Thomas Black in New Jersey, with one simple goal: build a chicken big enough to replace the Thanksgiving turkey. They succeeded. A single Jersey Giant rooster can feed a family of 4 with leftovers. Their eggs are extra large, dark brown, and hens push out between 150 and 200 per year. Some heritage bloodlines report numbers as high as 260. Now here's what makes this bird dangerous to the industry. Jersey Giants are calm, cold-hardy, and exceptional foragers. They do well on pasture with minimal supplemental feed. One breeder in Pennsylvania told me his giants free range 8 months of the year, and he only buys feed from November to February. That's roughly $180 a year for birds that give him both meat and eggs for 5 to 6 years running. Compare that to Cornish cross broilers that cost you feed money every single day of their 6-week life and give you exactly 1 meal. The Jersey Giant was listed as endangered by the Livestock Conservancy. It's now listed as recovering, and the credit goes entirely to small-scale keepers who saw what the industry tried to throw away. The next breed on this list was so valuable that only royalty was allowed to eat it. Number 3. The Dong Tao. This bird looks like something out of a different century, because it is. The Dong Tao chicken from Vietnam has legs as thick as a grown man's wrist, covered in heavy red and yellow scales that look like dragon claws. They weigh up to 13 pounds, and for centuries they were raised exclusively for Vietnamese royalty. Common people were forbidden from eating them. Today, a single breeding pair sells for up to $2,500. Their meat is considered a rare delicacy and can fetch $2,000 per bird in specialty markets across Southeast Asia. Now, is the Dong Tao practical for your average backyard? Probably not. They're nearly impossible to find outside Vietnam, difficult to hatch, and sensitive to cold climates. But the Dong Tao proves something that every homesteader needs to understand. Chickens were once so valuable that kings hoarded them. Today, the industry sells you a frozen bird for $3 a pound and calls it progress. That's not progress. That's a deliberate collapse in value that benefits one side of the transaction, and it's not your side. Think about that the next time someone tells you backyard chickens aren't worth the trouble. Number 4 is one of the oldest chicken breeds still alive on Earth, and it holds a record that has never been broken. Number 4, the Malay. This is the tallest chicken breed ever documented. Malay roosters stand up to 36 inches. That's 3 feet of solid, upright, muscular bird staring you in the face. They weigh around 11 pounds, and they are over 3,500 years old, originating in Southeast Asia, where they were bred for raw strength, endurance, and survival in brutal tropical heat. But here's the reason the Malay matters for your homestead. This breed is one of the most disease-resistant chickens on the planet. It thrives in heat. It forages aggressively. It barely needs human intervention to stay healthy year after year. You cannot sell antibiotics to a farmer whose chickens never get sick. You cannot sell medicated feed to someone whose flock thrives on pasture bugs and kitchen scraps. So the Malay never shows up in hatchery catalogs. It never gets featured in poultry magazines. You've probably never heard its name until this very moment. And yet it has survived for 35 centuries, while commercial hybrids can't survive 35 days without a controlled environment. If disease resistance and low input costs matter to you, the Malay deserves a serious look. But the next breed takes self-sufficiency to a level that genuinely threatens the feed industry's entire business model. Number 5, the Lang Shan. Born in China, brought west in the 1800s, quietly forgotten by an industry that had every reason to make sure you never found it. Lang Shan roosters weigh around 10 pounds. They carry themselves tall and upright with striking black feathers that flash iridescent green in sunlight. Beautiful birds, but beauty isn't why they're on this list. Lang Shan hens lay approximately 180 dark brown eggs per year, and some of those eggs carry a rare, subtle purple tint that heritage egg buyers will pay a premium for at farmers markets. Here's the real story, though. Langshans are quiet, gentle, cold-hardy, and possibly the best foragers of any breed their size. They're the kind of chicken that stays productive and healthy on almost zero commercial feed input. Give them pasture, give them scraps, and they handle the rest. That's exactly why you've never seen a Lang Shan in a major hatchery catalog. A bird that barely needs purchased feed is a bird the feed companies have zero interest in promoting. Every Lang Shan in your coop is revenue they lose, so they simply pretend it doesn't exist. Number 6 is the breed that might just be the most complete backyard chicken ever created. Number 6, the Orpington. In 1886, a man named William Cook set out to build the perfect dual-purpose chicken: meat, eggs, gentle temperament, all in one bird. He didn't just succeed, he created what many heritage breeders still call the gold standard of backyard poultry. Orpington roosters weigh around 10 pounds. Hens lay roughly 250 eggs per year. They come in buff, black, blue, and white, and they are so docile that children carry them around the yard like stuffed animals. But here's the number that keeps feed companies up at night. On well-managed pasture, Orpingtons can source up to 70% of their own diet from foraging. That's 70% less feed you need to buy, 70% less money flowing out of your pocket and into theirs. Run the math on a flock of 15 Orpingtons. If your annual feed cost would normally be $500, you're looking at closer to $150 with proper pasture rotation. That's $350 saved every single year, compounding for the 5 to 7 years these birds keep producing. The Buff Orpington became one of the most beloved breeds in history. Then the industry sidelined it for hybrids that eat more, produce less over time, and need replacing every 2 years. Coincidence? You already know the answer. But the next breed on this list holds a record that hasn't been touched in over 100 years, and it might be the most important bird you ever add to your flock. Number 7. The Australorp. In 1923, 6 Australorp hens did something that no chicken has done since. They laid 1,857 eggs in 365 days. 6 birds, 1 year. That's an average of 309 eggs per hen. No artificial lighting, no commercial supplements, no hormones, no climate-controlled barns. Just 6 heritage hens on pasture doing what they were bred to do. That record still stands. Over 100 years later, not a single modern hybrid has beaten it under the same natural conditions. Australorp roosters weigh about 10 pounds. Hens are around 8. They're calm, easy to handle, outstanding foragers, and nearly bulletproof in cold weather. They keep laying through conditions that shut most breeds completely down. One homesteader in Virginia runs 40 Australorps on open pasture and spends less than $60 a month on supplemental feed. The same flock size in commercial hybrids would run over $300 a month. That's a savings of nearly $3,000 per year from one management decision. The Australorp is living, breathing proof that a heritage breed from 1923 can outproduce anything the modern poultry industry has engineered in the centuries since. They just need you to never find that out. Now you've found out. I'll be honest with you, I didn't believe half of this when I first started hearing about heritage breeds. I was running a mixed flock of commercial hybrids, ISA Browns, a few Golden Comets, some Red Stars. Year 1 was incredible, eggs everywhere. I thought I had the whole thing figured out. Then year 2 hit, production dropped off a cliff. Birds that were giving me 6 eggs a week were down to 3. By the year 3, half the flock had quit entirely. I was still buying the same amount of feed, still cleaning the same coops, still doing the same work, but the return was shrinking every single month. So I started researching, and the more I dug into heritage breeds, the more frustrated I got. Not because the information was hard to find, because it was so obvious. These birds had been right there the whole time, bigger, hardier, more productive over the long run, and nobody in the mainstream poultry world was talking about them. I started with 6 Australorps and 4 Buff Orpingtons. I gave them pasture access and cut back on commercial feed to see what would happen. Within 3 months, my feed bill dropped by almost half. The Australorps were laying 5 to 6 eggs per bird per week. The Orpingtons weren't far behind, and these birds were calm, healthy, and actually getting bigger on less purchased input. By the end of that first year, I spent roughly $340 on feed for 10 birds. The year before, I'd spent over $600 on the same number of commercial hybrids and gotten fewer eggs in return. That was the moment I stopped being skeptical and started being angry. Angry that nobody told me sooner. Angry that the entire system is designed to point you towards birds that fail fast and cost more. I'm telling you now so you don't waste the years I did. Now, before you go out and buy your first heritage giants, let me save you from the mistakes that trip up almost everyone. Mistake number 1, building your coop too small. These are not bantams. A Jersey giant needs at least 6 square feet of coop space per bird. A Brahma needs 5 minimum. Cram them into a standard 4 square foot setup and you'll get feather picking, stress, lower egg production, and disease. Build bigger than you think you need. You'll thank yourself within the first month. Mistake number 2, Setting your roost bars too high. Heavy birds and high perches are a recipe for disaster. A 13-pound Jersey giant jumping down from a 5-foot roost will damage its legs, its keel bone, or both. Keep roost bars between 2 and 4 feet maximum. Use wide, flat bars instead of round dowels so their weight distributes evenly across their feet. Mistake number 3. Expecting commercial hybrid speed. Heritage giants grow slow. That's the whole point. A Brahma takes 9 months to reach full size. A Jersey giant takes 8 to 9. If you're checking their weight at 6 weeks and panicking, you've missed the entire philosophy. These birds are a long game. They pay you back over years, not weeks. Patience is the price of independence. Mistake number 4. Buying from commercial hatcheries instead of heritage breeders. Most large hatcheries have diluted heritage bloodlines to the point where the birds barely resemble the originals. You'll get a bird with the name, but not the genetics. Find dedicated heritage breeders through the Livestock Conservancy Directory, local poultry swaps, or breed-specific clubs. The genetics matter more than the label on the box. Now step back and picture what your homestead looks like 3 years from now with the right heritage birds in your yard. Your feed bill is half what it used to be because your flock forages most of its own diet. Your hens are still laying strong in year 4, year 5, year 6, while your neighbor is replacing burned-out hybrids for the 3rd time. Your freezer is full of real meat from birds that weigh double what a grocery store chicken weighs, and you raised every single one of them from eggs your own hens hatched without an incubator. No dependency on hatchery shipments, no anxiety every time feed prices spike, no replacing your entire flock every 18 months just to keep production up. That's not a fantasy. That's what farming looked like for centuries before the industry rewired the whole system around planned obsolescence. Every one of these 7 breeds is a step back toward that reality, a step toward a homestead that feeds itself instead of feeding a corporation. Here's what I want to know from you. Which one of these 7 breeds are you adding to your flock first? And if you're already raising any of them, tell me your experience in the comments. How many eggs are you getting? How much did your feed bill drop? Your story might be the one that convinces someone else to make the switch. If this video showed you something the mainstream poultry world never would, hit subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because in the next video, I'm breaking down the exact feeding system that cuts your grain costs by 60% using plants you can grow for free in your own backyard. You won't want to miss that one. These breeds survived wars, famines, and 70 years of being buried on purpose. They're still here, and now so are you.